Good evening, and thank you for joining me for another Boring Books for Bedtime. I hope tonight's selection provides all the boredom your busy brain needs to quiet down and let you get some sleep. Before we begin, I'd like to give a special shout out of thanks to some new members of our Patreon family: Elizabeth, Jaden, Rebecca, Roseanne, Max, Anne, and Jason. Thank you all so much for supporting this podcast. By becoming members of Patreon, you help us remain 100% listener supported and ad-free for everyone, and it's very much appreciated. And because you supported in the month of December, you and everyone else who supports us via Patreon or buymeacoffee.com will be entered into our special holiday giveaway. We have a particularly special prize this time, courtesy of one of your fellow listeners, the very talented Cynthia Treen, who has provided a custom felt mascot, a sleepy little kitty, with its very own 1897 Sears Roebuck & Co. catalog. It's so adorable, I'm already jealous of the person who's going to win this. You can see a video of her demonstrating that special prize, along with all the other giveaway prizes, via links to Patreon and buymeacoffee.com in the show description. I hope you'll take a moment to check them out. Now, let's read and relax. Find a comfortable spot. Adjust your volume. Take a nice deep breath in. Let it out slowly. And off we go. For this month of festivities, let's relax with a topic that absolutely screams holiday: candy, with more from Frye's Practical Candy Maker, comprising practical receipts for the manufacture of fine handmade candies, especially adapted for fine retail trade, by G.V. Frye, Practical Candy Maker, Chicago, Illinois. First published in 1884 by G.V. Frye and printed by the press of E.J. Decker, Chicago. Let's pick up right where we left off in the recipe portion of this book. Let's begin. Bar candies. Brown almond bar. 10 pounds of sugar. Large spoon of cream of tartar, and when it begins to boil, add 6 pounds of almond nuts, after having picked out all shells and dusted the nuts thoroughly. Stir slowly, keeping the sides of the basin well washed, until nuts are as brown as wished, and slide off the spatula easily when raised up. Pour out between iron bars about 1 inch thick. When cold enough not to run, cut into bars with batch knife and a mallet. Brown almond bar with glucose. 6 pounds of sugar. 4 pounds of glucose. Cook to the hard crack, then add 6 pounds of almond nuts. Stir until the nuts cease cracking, and it is done. Pour out as before. Blanched almond bar. Same as brown almond, except blanch the almonds. This should be done sometime before making the bar, so the nuts will be dry. Peanut bar. Same as almond bar, except use 10 pounds of peanuts. Sliced coconut. 10 pounds of sugar. Large spoon of cream of tartar. Cook to a hard crack or 290 degrees. Then add slowly 5 sliced coconuts. After paring the coconuts, cut them into halves, then slice them with a spoke shave. Stir carefully till nuts are as brown as desired. Then pour out between iron bars, same as other nut bars. If cooking with glucose, use same quantity as for almond bar. Brazil bar. 10 pounds of sugar, ordinary spoon of cream of tartar, or 6 pounds of sugar and 4 pounds of glucose. Cook to a hard crack or 290 degrees. Then pour out 1/2 of the batch between iron bars and scatter over this 5 or 6 pounds of Brazil nuts, after trimming all the dark skin off them so that they are nice and white. Now pour over the nuts the remaining syrup and cut into bars. Fruit candy. 6 pounds of sugar, 1 quart of water, a heaping spoon of cream of tartar, or 2 pounds of glucose. Cook to a hard crack. Then add carefully 4 pounds of fruit, such as cherries, figs, seeded dates, cut up citron, blanched almonds, Brazil nuts, a few slices of coconut, or any other nice fruits or nuts. Stir slowly for a few minutes until the fruits slide off the spatula freely. Then pour out on a greased slab between iron bars and cut into bars as nut candy. Molasses sliced coconut. Open, pare, and slice with a spoke shave 5 fresh coconuts. Then place on a slow fire 1 quart best NO molasses and 1/4 pound sweet butter. When it boils, add the coconuts. Stir all the time over a very slow fire until it reaches the soft crack in winter or crack in summer. Pour out on a greased slab and spread out thin with a palette knife. Then cut into such sized bars as wished. Wrap in wax paper in summer. Black walnut candy. 6 pounds of sugar, 1 quart of water, small spoon of cream of tartar, or 1 pound of glucose, and 1/2 pint NO molasses. Cook to a hard crack, then add 1/2 pound sweet butter, and stir until the batch again reaches the hard crack. Set off and stir in 1 teaspoon saleratus. Then pour out on a greased slab and scatter over the batch 2 pounds of picked over walnuts. Fold up the batch and knead the walnuts through it. Then, when cold enough, form into a small square. Lay before the heater on the spinning table, and while one person keeps it in shape, let another cut it into slices. Another way is to cook just to the soft crack and serve in the same manner as above, but wrap the squares in wax paper. Caramels. These caramel receipts are the best in the world, and the author questions the ability of anyone to produce a caramel that will excel them in any particular. After once making by either one of the following formulas, no other will be used, as they are worth a dozen times the price of this book to anyone wishing to give his trade a fine caramel. Vanilla Caramels No. 1. Open 8 cans of condensed milk. Osprey brand is the best, manufactured by Canfield Condensed Milk Company, Baltimore, Maryland. When this cannot be procured, use Eagle brand. Empty cans into 1 gallon of sweet cream and stir until all is of one consistency. Reject all small lumps that may be in the milk, as they will settle at the bottom and burn the batch. Now add to the mixture 12 pounds of sugar and 6 pounds of glucose. Put on the fire, and when it begins to boil, split 3 vanilla beans to the stem and scrape out the centers. Tie the beans together at one end and add them with the scrapings to the batch. Cook over a slow fire to a soft crack, stirring all the time. Pour out and remove the beans. In case the extract of vanilla is used, add it just before pouring out on the slab. Vanilla caramels number 2. 12 pounds of sugar, 6 quarts of good cream, 2 vanilla beans, and 1 pound of sweet butter. Cook over a rapid fire to a good crack. Put the sugar, 2 quarts of the cream, and the beans on the fire. When it boils, add 2 quarts more of the cream. When it again reaches a boil, add the remaining 2 quarts. Then, as it again comes to a boil, add 2 heaping spoons of cream of tartar. Maple caramels. Use 6 pounds of sugar, 6 pounds of maple sugar, and 6 pounds of glucose. Then proceed as for vanilla, with the exception of the flavor. Strawberry caramels. Same as vanilla number 2. Color red in the basin and flavor before pouring out with the extract of strawberry. Coconut caramels. Same as vanilla. If cooking according to vanilla number 1, as I always recommend, add 3 grated coconuts when the batch has reached the hard ball. If by vanilla number 2, add the coconuts at first with the sugar and cream, using a little more cream of tartar than for vanilla. Honey caramels. Same as vanilla, except use 6 pounds of sugar, 6 of honey, and 6 of glucose. Pulled caramels. Cook 6 pounds of sugar and 6 pounds of glucose with 6 quarts of cream and 1/2 pound of sweet butter to a soft crack. Pour out on the slab, and when nearly cold, place on a hook and pull as white as possible. Then form into a thin sheet on a slab and roll with a rolling pin until of even thickness. Mark and cut as other caramels. Chocolate caramels. Use 7 cans of condensed milk with 1 gallon of cream. After mixing it, reserve 1 quart and add to the rest 12 pounds of sugar, 6 pounds of glucose, and 2 vanilla beans. Cook over a slow fire till about half done, then set off. Break up 1 1/4 pounds of chocolate. Put it into a basin with a little water. Put on the fire, and when hot, add the 1 quart of cream, a little at a time, until the chocolate is dissolved. Strain it into the batch, then set on the fire again and cook to a soft crack. Chocolate cream caramels. Make a batch same as last, but only 1/2 the size. Pour it out on the slab very thin. Prepare about 6 pounds of cream by working very smooth. Then with a rolling pin, roll it into a thin sheet and spread it over 1/2 the batch. Fold the other half of the batch over this and press it well down. Mark with caramel marker and cut as other caramels. Opera caramels. Vanilla. 10 pounds of sugar and 1 gallon of cream. 1 vanilla bean split and scraped as before. 1 full spoon of cream of tartar. Add this after the batch has reached the boil. Cook just to a soft ball, stirring all the time. Pour out on a damp slab, made so by sprinkling on a very little water. When cold, cream it with a cream scraper, and after working it perfectly smooth, form the whole into a sheet about 1/2 inch thick between iron bars and on wax paper. Run the rolling pin over it and mark with caramel marker. After it remains on the slab an hour or so, cut into strips 3 or 4 rows wide and place in pans. Opera caramels, maple. Same as vanilla, excepting use 5 pounds of maple sugar and 5 pounds of regular sugar and a very small spoon cream of tartar. Opera caramels, chocolate. Same as vanilla, except reserve 1 quart of cream to dissolve 1 pound of chocolate. Strain this into the batch when half done. Cook to a soft ball and cream and shape as before. Nut caramels. Cook same as vanilla number 1. Add 4 pounds of nuts, either black walnut, English walnut, hickory nut, or Brazil to the batch. When at a hard ball, or when the batch is done, pour out 1/2 between iron bars. Scatter over it the nuts and cover them with what remains in the basin. Buttercups. 10 pounds of sugar, 2 quarts of water. When it boils, add 1/2 pint New Orleans molasses and small spoon of cream of tartar, or 7 pounds of sugar and 3 of glucose. Cook to 310 degrees. Then add 1 pound of sweet butter and stir until dissolved. Pour out on a greased slab. Before cooking the above, take about 5 pounds of vanilla cream. Work smooth and place before the heater on the spinning table. Keep turning it and working the heat into it until it is quite hot. Now put the above on the fire, and when poured out and cool, as candy we intend to pull, spread it out into a sheet about 1 inch thick, 12 or 14 inches wide and 16 in length. Place the warm cream, having formed it into a roll, on the center of the batch lengthwise. Now fold the covering over the cream, making the edges meet. Roll before the heater until warm, sufficient to work nicely. Then spin out as stick candy and mark with caramel marker. Hickory nut cups. Chop fine 1 1/2 pounds of hickory nuts. Place them on the spinning table before the heater with 4 pounds of cream. As the cream gets warm, work the nuts through it. When all are worked in, put on 10 pounds of sugar and a small spoon of cream of tartar. Cook until sugar just begins to turn, or about 330 degrees by the thermometer, then pour out at once. When sufficiently cold, place on the hook and pull until it has a white satin appearance. Then remove from the hook and form into shape as for buttercups. Place the cream across the center and fold over the batch, making the edges meet. Then spin out as before. To make a center that will chew, cook 2 pounds of sugar and 3 of glucose to a hard ball. Pour on the slab and work into it 1 1/2 pounds of chopped up hickory nuts. 1/4 of a pound of sweet butter and 1 vanilla bean may be added while cooking if desired. A very nice center may be made by cooking 1 gallon best New Orleans molasses to a hard ball over a slow fire. Pour out on the slab and work in chopped up hickory nuts, walnuts, or cream nuts. Another popular center is made by running through a coconut grater a quantity of fresh figs, and then working into them powdered sugar sufficient to form a smooth paste. Nectar cups. Same as hickory nut cups, except make a center of almond paste, colored light green. When on the slab, add to the clear batch a few drops of red color, some nectar flavor, and fold all together. Pull on the hook to a bright pink and finish as before. Walnut cups. Same as hickory nut cups, with the exception of the nuts. Coconut cups. Prepare a center by cooking 2 pounds of sugar and 3 of glucose to a crack or 260 degrees. Add 2 grated coconuts. Stir a moment and pour out on the slab. Fold up and keep warm at the heater. Put on the fire 10 pounds of sugar, a small spoon of cream of tartar, and cook until sugar begins to turn. Then add 1/4 of a pint of New Orleans molasses. Stir a moment, pour out, and finish as before. You may use for center a small batch of Japanese coconut cooked to a ball. Chocolate cups. Use for a center 5 pounds of vanilla cream. Cook a covering same as for hickory nut cups. When on the slab, pour over the batch 3/4 of a pound melted chocolate. Fold together and work the chocolate thoroughly through the batch. Finish as before. Lemon or sour cups. Make a center from 5 pounds of sugar, a heaping spoon of cream of tartar, or 3 pounds of glucose and 3 of sugar. Cook to a hard ball. When on the slab, add 1/4 of a tumbler of paste made of tartaric acid, same as for lemon drops. Prepare the covering same as hickory nut cups. Color yellow. Pull on the hook. Flavor oil of lemon and finish as before. Fruit cups. 3 pounds of cream. 2 pounds of fruits chopped up and mixed through the cream. These fruits should be chopped up some time before using so they may dry. Prepare a covering as for hickory nut cups, but do not pull it. This allows the fruit to show through the covering and looks very handsome. Coconut bar white. 7 pounds of sugar, 1 quart of water. When it comes to a boil, add 6 grated coconuts and stir until it reaches a good thread. Set it off on a barrel and add a drop or 2 of bluing. Now with the spatula, granulate the batch by working it on the sides of the basin and stirring the whole batch until it becomes white. Then pour out on a sugared slab. By this is meant having arranged the iron bars to hold the batch. Sieve over the enclosed surface pulverized sugar, also over the tops of the bars. Then turn the bars over carefully so the sugared edge will be on the inside of the enclosure. In this space, having poured the batch, smooth it down with a palette knife and let remain overnight if possible. Then cut into bars. Use no flavor. White coconut cakes. Cook 5 pounds of sugar with 5 coconuts, grated in long strips to a thread. Set off the fire, and with the spatula granulate the batch until the body of the sugar becomes cloudy. Then place the basin on a barrel near the slab, having previously sugared the slab. Take a tablespoon, dip a quantity of the coconut from the basin. Then, by means of a stick, remove it from the spoon, dropping it on the slab. So continue until all is formed into cakes, or a small quantity may be reserved and colored red. Then add a portion to each cake, placing it on the tops. Coconut potatoes. 5 pounds of sugar, nearly a quart of water, small spoon of cream of tartar. Cook to 275 degrees, then set off and stir in 2 grated coconuts. Pour out on a damp slab and cream it. Then roll out into a strip 1 inch in diameter and cut into pieces weighing 2 ounces. Form these in the shape of potatoes and roll them in ground cinnamon. Then split some blanched almonds into 4 strips each and stick them into the potatoes, 1 at either end and 1 on either side, resembling the sprouts on potatoes. Coconut biscuit. Take 1 1/2 pounds of powdered sugar to each grated coconut. Put it into an earthen vessel and work to a paste with the hands. Use a little orange flower water if desired. Now, taking a tin tube, say 6 inches in length, 1 1/2 inches in diameter, having a rod with a head just fitting the tube, press the tube into the paste, having it of even thickness in a pan. Then force the paste from the tube with the rod, forming a biscuit. When all are formed, take a fine small brush and dip it in burnt sugar color and daub a little on the top of each biscuit to give them the appearance of being browned in an oven. Now wrap them in wax paper, twisting both ends as in French kisses. Japanese coconut. 5 pounds of glucose and 2 pounds of sugar, 1 quart of water. When it comes to a boil, add 5 pounds of grated coconut. Cook to a hard ball, stirring all the time. Pour out on a greased slab between iron bars. Make it of even thickness with a palette knife. When cold, mark diagonally 2 ways with caramel marker, forming diamonds. Then roll in pulverized sugar or crystallize them. Spanish coconut kisses. Grate 6 fresh coconuts, then place on the fire 8 pounds of sugar and just sufficient water to dissolve it. When it boils, add the coconuts and stir until it reaches a thread. Set off and stir in a few drops bluing. Now pour into a lip basin a small portion, and with a small wooden spatula, granulate until it becomes cloudy. Then drop on sheets of tin, cutting the drops from the lip pan by means of a wire. Make the drops the size of a silver quarter. Almond goods. Almond paste. Blanch 4 pounds of almond nuts. Put them into a vessel and cover with water. Let them stand for 4 or 5 hours. Now drain them, pound and rub them to a smooth paste in a mortar, adding a little orange flower water to keep them from oiling. When the paste is finished, put on the fire 8 pounds of sugar and cook to a crack. Set off on a barrel and add the almond paste. Stir continually until the batch is cold, then put the paste into a crock for use. Almond gems. 10 pounds of sugar, 2 quarts of water, small spoon cream of tartar, or 7 pounds of sugar and 3 pounds of glucose. Add to batch 1/2 pint of New Orleans molasses. Stir until dissolved, then cook to 300 degrees and add 1 pound of sweet butter. Stir a moment, then pour out. Scatter over the batch 2 pounds of chopped up almond nuts. Work all together and run through a drop machine. Cream almonds. Pick over 4 pounds of almond nuts, rejecting all pieces and imperfect ones. Cook 16 pounds of sugar and 2 quarts of water to a good ball. Set it near the fire to keep warm. Put the almonds into a basin. Set it over the fire and stir the nuts around until quite hot. Now, empty the nuts into a shaker kettle, and while one person throws the nuts about by shaking the kettle, let another person pour the hot syrup, by means of a lip pan, over the almonds in a thin, continuous stream. Continue in this way until the nuts are as large as desired. If flavoring the syrup with vanilla, leave the syrup clear. If with rose or nectar, color it with a few drops of red. Another way to make cream almonds on a small scale is to put into a sieve 2 pounds of selected almonds. Hold them over the fire, shaking them until very hot. Cook 8 pounds of sugar to a good ball. Use 1/2 spoon of cream of tartar. When done, set near the fire. Put the sieve containing the almonds on the table, and while one person pours the hot syrup over the almonds in a thin stream, let another person shake the sieve, letting it rest on the table. In making Jordan cream almonds, use only 1½ or 2 pounds of sugar to each pound of nuts. Burnt almonds. 6 pounds of Jordan almonds, 6 pounds of sugar, and 1 quart of water. When the sugar comes to a boil, add the nuts and cook over a very slow fire until the nuts cease to crack. In this way, the nuts will be thoroughly roasted. Now set off the basin and stir and turn the batch about until the sugar granulates. Throw all into a sieve and shake the loose sugar off. Put this into the basin with a little water to dissolve it. Cook to a soft ball. Remove the basin from the fire and add the nuts. Stir and turn the batch until the sugar again granulates. Throw into the sieve and shake off the loose sugar as before. Put it into the basin with enough sugar added to make 6 pounds. Add water to dissolve and color a deep red. Cook to a soft ball. Remove and add almonds as before. While granulating the sugar this time, add 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon. Now put into the basin 1 pint of dissolved gum arabic, made black by adding burnt sugar color to it. Set this on the fire, and when it boils, set off and throw in the almonds. Stir, throwing the nuts over and over until all are covered with the gum. Then spread them out on a tray and put in a warm place to dry. To make a hard coating, cook the sugar to a hard crack or 290 degrees each time instead of a soft ball. This kind will retain the gloss much longer, but the soft covering is the most popular. Almond nougat. Put into a copper basin 2 quarts of honey and the whites of 2 dozen eggs. Beat to a staunch foam. Set on a very gentle fire, made so by covering it with ashes. Now, with a long-handled egg beater, Stir continually for 2 hours. When time is about up, cook 8 pounds of sugar with a large spoon of cream of tartar to a hard crack or 290 degrees. Then put the basin containing the eggs and honey on a barrel, and while one person stirs, let another pour in slowly the syrup just cooked. When thoroughly mixed, stir in about 3 pounds of pistachio nuts, or pistachio and blanched almond nuts mixed, or all blanched almonds. The nuts must be well dried after blanching. Then pour out into a starch tray, previously prepared, by lining it with ordinary paper, then again with wafer paper. Spread the batch of even thickness with a palette knife, then cover the top with wafer paper, and set away to cool. This will require about 10 or 12 hours in summer. When cold, cut with a sharp knife into pieces about 3 or 4 inches in length, and wrap in wax paper. Miscellaneous candies. Fruit cake. 10 pounds of sugar, 2 quarts of cream, 1 spoon cream of tartar, or 2 pounds of glucose. Cook to a soft ball, stirring all the time. Pour on a damp slab, and when cold, cream it. Then work into it 3 or 4 pounds of French fruits. Mold it in large cake pans and set away a few hours to harden. Cut it into slices as sold. Cream peppermints. Take of cream, such as is prepared for dipping purposes, about 3 or 4 pounds. Put this into a small basin inside of another basin containing hot water. Stir until dissolved, then set off and stir into it a few ounces of pulverized sugar and flavor with mint oil. Now with a funnel dropper, run the cream into drops on sheets of tin the size of a silver quarter. In a few moments they will be dry, and may be slid off the tins easily by turning them sidewise and bending once or twice backward and forward. They may also be run in starch prints if desired. For cream wintergreens, same as peppermint, except color pink and flavor wintergreen. Molasses mint drops. 10 pounds of sugar, water to dissolve, and a small spoon cream of tartar, or 7 pounds of sugar and 3 of glucose. When it boils, add 1 pint of New Orleans molasses and cook to a hard crack. Pour out on a slab. When cold enough, pull all but about 2 pounds to a bright golden color. Form it into a roll and stripe with the clear piece as for stick candy. Then spin out and mark with caramel marker. Mint cakes. Cook a batch same as for mint stick candy. Spin out about 1 inch in diameter and cut with the shears into pieces about 1 inch in length. Then stand them on end, and by placing the thumb on the top, press them into flat, round cakes. Or if making in large quantities, cut with a Jackson ball cutter and have 2 boards fastened together at one end with hinges. Place a number of these cuts on end between the boards and press them into cakes. For mint kisses, make a batch the same as for cakes, but run it through a sour drop cutter. Boston chips. This candy is very popular, but it requires considerable skill to make, so do not be disappointed if at your first trial you fail to get it perfect. Take 10 pounds of sugar and a small spoon cream of tartar. Use no glucose as nicer goods in this line can be made with cream of tartar. When it boils, add 1/2 pint New Orleans molasses and cook to 325 degrees. Pour on the slab, and when cold enough, pull to a bright yellow. Now place it before the heater, and having a pair of gloves on, rub it on 2 sides until it assumes the appearance of satin. Then spin it out into a thin, flat strip, rubbing it all the time, and let another person feed it through a flake machine. It will still retain its gloss. If you have no machine, it can be run out with the hands. Strings of comfort. Cook 5 pounds of sugar and small spoon cream of tartar till the sugar begins to turn, or about 330 degrees. Then pour out and pull perfectly white and flavor cinnamon. Form into a roll and spin out into strings about the thickness of a straw. While yet warm, curl them into different forms. When all is spun out, heap them on a pan. There can be several varieties of these made, coloring and flavoring to suit the taste. Butterscotch. 6 pounds of sugar, 1/2 pint molasses, and 1 spoon cream of tartar, or 2 pounds of glucose. When it begins to cook, add 1/2 pound of sweet butter. Stir until it reaches the crack, or 260 degrees. Add a few drops of lemon oil and pour out on the slab between iron bars. Mark into squares, whatever size wished. Maple cream for counter. 10 pounds of maple sugar, small spoon cream of tartar, and 3 pints of water. Cook to a soft ball. Set away till it is almost cold, then with the spatula, cream it in the basin. As soon as it looks cloudy, pour it out at once in a deep pan. This must be done quickly, or it will become hard in the basin. When cold, remove it from the pan in the same manner as the pan creams. Mark it into bars or large squares for the counter. Cream bars or baby cream. 12 pounds of sugar, a small spoon of cream of tartar, or 1 pound of glucose, 2 quarts of water. When it boils, add 2 vanilla beans. Cook to a soft crack and pour out on a cold slab. Pull until perfectly white. Add a drop or so of indigo on the hook. This will assist in whitening it. Sugar a warm slab by sieving over it pulverized sugar. Place the batch on one corner of the slab and pull it out into strips the length of the slab. Sieve sugar over the strips. Now take an iron bar, one person being on the opposite side of the slab. Press one edge of the iron bar across the strips, marking them into bars 3 or 4 inches in length. Let it remain on the slab 10 or 12 hours or until granulation takes place. Several varieties can be made according to the flavor used, such as mint, cinnamon, chocolate, etc. This candy can also be run through a drop machine, and in a day or so the drops will become creamy and are very nice. Fig bar. 20 pounds of sugar, or the same amount of crystal syrup. Place it on the fire. When it reaches a thread, add 10 pounds of figs, cut up with the candy shears, or what is better, grate them in the coconut grater. Stir until the batch reaches a large thread. Set it off on a barrel and sieve into it a pound or so of pulverized sugar, Then with the spatula, work it on the sides of the basin until it becomes a thick mass. Then pour out on a sugared slab between iron bars. Spread it of even thickness. Now dissolve 8 or 10 pounds of plain cream in a basin inside another basin containing water. Color pink and flavor nectar. Pour this cream over the fig paste and with a palette knife spread it evenly over the batch. Leave it lay a few hours or overnight, then cut it into bars or squares. Jelly gumdrops, lemon. 12 pounds of sugar, 2 quarts of water, and a small spoon cream of tartar. Put on the fire and dissolve, then add 1 pound of dissolved gum arabic and a few drops of lemon oil. Cook to a soft ball, then remove and with a funnel, run it into starch prints. Sieve a little starch powder over the tops and set them in the dry closet till next day. Then take them out of the starch and crystallize or dip them in melted fondant. For jelly gumdrops rose, same as lemon, except color with a few drops of liquid carmine and flavor with extract of rose. A.B. gumdrops, old style. Put 6 pounds of pure white gum arabic into a basin with 1/2 gallon water. Place this basin inside of another one containing water. Put on the fire and stir until dissolved. Then set off and put on the fire 10-pound sugar and cook to a good soft ball and pour it into the dissolved gum arabic. Now let it remain undisturbed for a while. A scum will form on the top. Remove this, then with a funnel run it into starch prints. Sieve some starch over the tops. Put them into the closet at a temperature of about 150 degrees. Let remain until next day. Then remove and dust off any loose starch with a fine brush and put to crystal. If a hard gumdrop is wanted, use more gum arabic and less sugar. Cordial drops. 6 pounds of sugar, 1 quart water. Cook to a good thread or about 222 degrees. Remove from the fire and add 1 pint of cologne spirits or 98% alcohol, having added to it whatever color and flavor desired. Now with a funnel run it into starch prints. Sieve a little starch powder over the tops and set in the warm closet till next day. They may then be removed from the starch and crystallized or dipped in melted fondant. Brandy drops are made in the same manner, except use brandy instead of alcohol. Marshmallow drops. Put into a basin 5 pounds of white gum arabic pulverized. Add 1/2 gallon water. Place this basin inside of another one containing water. Set on the fire and stir till dissolved. Then add 9 pounds of pulverized sugar and evaporate until of a thick consistency. Now add the whites of 2 dozen eggs. Beat to a staunch foam and stir until perfectly white and of a good body, or until when laying the back of your hand on the batch it does not adhere to it. Flavor orange oil, orange flower water, or vanilla. Set off, and having a wide-mouthed bag with a tin spout, fill it with the mixture. Hold in the left hand, and with the right, cut the drops off with a small wire into starch prints. Sieve a little starch powder over the tops and set away in the closet till next day. They may then be removed and put into tin boxes. Some use a decoction of marshmallow root in making the drops, but as it gives them a bitter taste, I always omit it. Glacé nuts and fruits. Select a small quantity of English walnut halves, Brazil nuts, coconut. Cut into small squares cherries, limes, apricots, pineapple, both red and white. Cut into small squares dates and figs. Spread all these out on a tray to dry except the coconut, which prepare in the following manner. Take 3 pounds of sugar with 1 pint of water. When it boils, add the fresh coconut, say 1 whole one cut into small squares. Cook just to a thread. Remove and with the spatula work the syrup on the sides of the basin till it becomes cloudy. Pour all on a wire sieve, having a pan under it to catch the syrup that drains from the coconuts. Set them away until dry. When ready to glace, cook 6 pounds of sugar, a teaspoon of cream of tartar, and 1 quart water to about 280 or 290 degrees. Pour it into a deep pan, having placed it on the center of a slab on a rest of some kind, so the cold slab will not chill the syrup. Now throw into the syrup the nuts and fruits, 1 piece at a time, removing them with a dipping ladle and dropping them on the slab. Many other fruits may be prepared in this way and are very popular, such as orange slices, Malaga and California grapes, etc., but only small quantities should be made at a time, as they soon become sticky when exposed to the atmosphere. And with that good advice, I think we'll end this evening's reading from Frye's Practical Candy Maker, which certainly covers a lot of candy territory. I don't believe I've ever said the word sugar that much in my life, and we still have about a third to go. I hope you enjoyed that. If you just can't wait for our final reading from this book, as always, you'll find a link to a free ebook from Project Gutenberg in the show description. If you'd like to connect, suggest a boring book you'd like to hear read, or request more from one we've already started, you can drop me an email via our website, www.boringbookspod.com. It's always a pleasure to hear from you. Thank you so much for joining me for this evening's reading. Until our next boring book, good night.